Hi Bio4 and welcome to part 5 of digestion. So we're going to move on now to the large intestine. So another word for the large intestine is the colon. This is about 4.5 feet long and it has the following sections. It begins with the cecum. Remember, that's where the ileum is going to come in. It begins with the cecum. And you're going to see the appendix that I already pointed out in the previous video. Ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon. So really easy to see here. Here is the ileum. So it's feeding in to this dead end here that's the cecum. And on it, the appendix. So that's the entryway. You see? You can see it really well there. This is a nice drawing. And the contents then are going to come up here, the ascending colon. They're going to take a right turn here at the right colic flexure. And this is going to be the transverse colon and left colic flexure. Coming down to the descending colon. And then there's a little S here. This little S is the S for sigmoid colon, and rectum. So if you have a sigmoidoscopy, where they put a little camera up here to see if they can find polyps, it'll look at this area only. If you have a colonoscopy, that's going to come up here, come around, come the whole way, and look at all the lining here of the colon, looking for a colon cancer. So that structure is pretty straightforward, and you've had some of these structures in lab. Functions. Absorption of water. So this is the last chance that your intestine has to regain any water that you don't want to eliminate unnecessarily. Remember, if we're terrestrial animals, we're in danger of dehydration. So keep the water if you can. Also of salts. This is area of formation of feces and also the expulsion of these feces from the body. Very important area. Accessory organs here are the pancreas, the liver, and the gallbladder. So we're going to look a little bit at these. Pancreas. The location is in the curvature of the duodenum. Remember, we just looked at that. Connected to the duodenum by the pancreatic duct. Remember, it connects to the pancreas there. And it produces its pancreatic, quote-unquote, juice that is full of enzymes. So there's that location again of the pancreas, and common bile duct is coming in, and enzymes here will be dumped into the duodenum by the pancreatic duct. So this juice, this pancreatic juice, contains what? Pancreatic amylase. It breaks down carbohydrates, lipase, breaking down of fats into glycerol and fatty acids. Proteases, we talked about this, breaks down protein. So really, that breakdown is all coming from enzymes that were manufactured in the pancreas. That's why pancreatitis is very serious, because it essentially breaks down all digestion if you can't release some of these enzymes. And it also controls your sugar levels. So it's the pancreas that's producing all these enzymes. I've separated it into the endocrine function, which is the digestion of all these nutrient groups that I've been mentioning. It's also a pH regulator, so it will try and maintain that pH of the GI tract. And the endocrine function is the production of insulin and glucagon. So these two are going to be very, very important in controlling the level of your blood glucose. So if you just had a meal, blood glucose is going to rise, and you need to remove that extra sugar from circulation and put it somewhere else. Put it in cells or store it in the liver. Just get it out of circulation. And that's what insulin is going to be able to do. Regulate that incoming sugar. Glucagon is the opposite. It's that you have forgotten to have breakfast, you didn't have lunch, and your blood sugar is dropping. Then it's going to signal the liver to break down some of that stored glucose and release it into the blood. So it's this regulating of taking it out, taking sugar out if there's too much, or putting some in if it's too low. It's a very important function. Liver. The liver, we could have 2 or 3 lectures on the liver, so this is a summarization, which is huge. It performs many life-sustaining functions, and you saw the location. It's under the diaphragm, and it's connected to the diaphragm by the falciform ligament. The falciform ligament is shown here. This is also for lab. It's a ligament that's going to then, as I said here, connect to the diaphragm so it doesn't flop around. And there you can see protruding from out underneath this lobe is the gallbladder. So functions of the liver, it's going to produce bile. It makes bile. It doesn't store bile. It makes bile. Storage of the bile is in the gallbladder. So it's making the bile. And what it is a lot of water, bile salts, cholesterol, and bilirubin pigment. And what does it do? Well, its function is to emulsify fats. What's that mean? If you had one big globule of fat, like I drew here, it's very hard for those digestive enzymes to be able to attack the surface of it and be successful at breaking this down. It would be much easier if you already broke it down into tiny little fat droplets, and then my enzymes are going to be much more successful at digesting these. So the term emulsification of fat is the breakdown of a big fat glob into little tiny little droplets. That's what to emulsify is. So this bile is very important. We make a lot of it and we store it in the gallbladder. What happens if you don't have a gallbladder? Well, then you don't store it and you're still secreting it. It's a little bit harder to digest a big, huge, fatty meal given that you don't have a storage of enough of this bile. But mostly people without the gallbladder do fine. Other functions of the liver, it stores iron. It stores vitamins, vitamin A, D, B12. Very important. It's a detoxifier. You know that. It detoxifies all sorts of toxins plus alcohol. It is able to metabolize carbohydrates. So I kind of made a little bit of a mention of that, talking about if your blood sugar were low, then you'd have to send the signal to the liver to break down its storage, which is glycogen. So we store glucose in the form of glycogen. We put it in the liver. But if we were to be in need of that glucose, we will break down the glycogen and release it into circulation. If you had too much, remember, insulin makes you put it in the cells, but what if the cells are full? Then insulin is going to take that glucose and make the liver convert it to the storage. And the storage, again, is glycogen. Do not confuse glycogen with glucagon. Okay, glucagon is from the pancreas. What else does it do? It synthesizes plasma proteins. So those, for example, clotting proteins that are going to make you not bleed out, those are all synthesized in the liver. It's also a filter, so it's going to be able to remove worn out, damaged red blood cells, any sort of impurities of cells that remain in circulation, and it's going to be able to remove those. This is just a very quick summary, synopsis of what the liver is doing for you. Very important organ. I threw this in because this is nice to see all what it does. Iron storage, protein synthesis, glycogen regulation, cholesterol synthesis, and here you go. You have this as a little summary, more visual summary. gallbladder. The location is underside the right lobe of the liver. Remember I showed it to you? And it's going to concentrate and store bile. So it doesn't make it, it's going to store it. And there it is, gallbladder. So the liver is making it, transporting it, and putting it in here. And then later when we need it, this is going to eject some of this, and it's going to come down, the common bile duct come down in here into the duodenum. And it's coming across here with the pancreatic duct, right? So made in the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and then dumped into the duodenum. What about stones? So I talked about removing your gallbladder. Well, in the event of some of that cholesterol that is part of the bile, if it were to crystallize, those insoluble crystals of cholesterol and also other mineral salts that are in there can make stones. And those stones then could be lodged in there, which would make it, a less effective organ. And not only that, but when it tries to eject bile out, a stone could get lodged in here, it can get lodged in here, and that is very painful. So if you have a propensity of making these stones, what they can do is just take the gallbladder out. That was my last slide. So my message here in this digestive system video was to eat well. Doesn't that look good? Take care of your digestive tract and be healthy. Thanks for listening, you guys. Bye.